Rage and Kill versus Ebike. Subscribe to the channel.
Okay guys, today I thought I would go over speed controllers. Yep, your e-bike speed controller. If you learn about speed controllers, you can save a lot of money on e-bikes. If you're trying to get into e-bikes and you don't really have any money, learn about speed controllers and displays and the hub motors. If you learn these three things, you will be able to get into e-bikes a lot cheaper. Because if you learn these three things, mostly the speed controllers and hub motors. If you learn especially those two things, you can buy used e-bikes at amazing prices. Facebook Marketplace, so on and so on. A lot of time, a lot of people get into e-bikes and they don't know anything about the inner workings of e-bikes. They don't know anything about the controllers. They don't know how they work. They don't know anything about hub motors. So, first thing they do, especially if it's somebody who got, disposable money, they, instead of trying to figure out how to fix it or anything, because it's not a lot of business like the bike shops. A lot of bike shops don't work on e-bikes. They work on bikes. They can upgrade your mechanical brakes to hydraulic brakes, stuff like that. Fix your chain, derailleur, basic bike stuff. Change your tires and all that type of stuff. But they don't really like to mess with electronics and stuff like that. And you're pretty much on your own. So, my advice would be learn these things. Learn about the controllers. Learn about the hub motors. Learn how to replace motor parts and wires, how to solder wires and change out little wires. Because a lot of times, the main culprit or reason why somebody's bike not working is because it's a wire done frail or came loose, and all it would take to fix it is you knowing how to solder or crimp or repin a connection. And if you learn these things, this could save you thousands of dollars. Because sometimes people, because they don't know these things, they will sell a bike that costs $2,000. They'll be like, hey, look, come get this for $200, $300. And you get a $50 part, $60 part, and you got you a $2,000 bike. Or expensive bike for, pennies on a dollar, pretty much. So, okay, so let's go over some of these components for speed controllers. Alright. First, let's start with these two. These two are what you call waterproof connection speed controllers. Okay, so these are going to be your easiest controllers to learn. Alright, because they're very simple. Alright. So usually with the waterproof connection speed controllers like these two, and the reason why they call it waterproof connection, because these plugs right here, they waterproof. These connections right here, what they consider waterproof, because they plug into each other. So, and usually, like these two are considered. The difference between these two is, all right, you got two differences. This is what you call a 30 amp controller. See right here? This is going to put 30 amps, maximum 30 amps out to your motor, which if the battery is capable, it's going to pull 30 amps from the battery and push 30 amps out to your hub motor, which is amps is what controls your speed. If you're trying to get a faster bike, you want more amps. You want a battery that can push more amps, so the higher amperage of the battery and the higher amp the controller, the faster it will spin the motor. It'll push more amps out to the motor, make the motor go faster. Now you can burn the motor up if a motor's not capable of handling the amps that you push into it, and you can also burn up the controller if you're pushing too much amps to the controller from the battery. I mean, so you got to know what you're doing with that. But a lot of people, misunderstand that. They don't understand amps is what control the speed that your bike is capable of doing. So as you can see, this is a 30 amp controller, and this controller is a 22 amp controller plus 2. So you would say about 24 amps. This would be like 31. But yeah, so this controller is capable of pushing more amps to the motor than this one is. But that's not going to matter that much if you got the same battery in both of these controllers, and the battery is only capable of pushing 20 amps. That means even though this is 22 amps, it's only going to be able to draw 20 amps from that battery. So it wouldn't make a difference, which one of these controllers in your bike if your battery is only capable of pushing out 20 amps. But if your battery is like a 30 amp, capable of 30 amps, this controller is going to push more power to your motor than this one. But yeah. So that's the thing you gotta know. So that's why it's important to know what amps all your components are pushing. That's why I say, and I left that out, battery also. But battery is something you don't really want to play around with too much, because the batteries are very dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, you can cause fire. But it is some things out there, some safety precautions you can use to be safe with your e-bike batteries and stuff. And I'll try to put it up on the screen, like some of the stuff you can buy off Amazon, like battery bags and fire extinguishers that's for e-bikes and stuff like that, e-bike batteries. But anyway, amps. So even though these are different amps, like this one produces more amps than this one, if the battery is below both of these amps, it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. But if the battery, say that battery is 50 amps on your 50 amp battery, and you got a 30 amp controller versus a 22 amp controller, of course the 30 amp controller is going to make your bike go faster. Now we're not talking like 10, 15 miles per hour faster and stuff. We're talking like a couple of miles per hour faster. You really gotta get into higher amps to start getting like faster speed, higher amps, and bigger motors and stuff. But anyways, yeah. So that's what the difference with the amps on these. But also you'll notice, like, even though this is a smaller controller, it still puts out pretty good amps for the sound. Plus, this means you can put this on your bike easier because it's smaller. But also, it's another difference. When you start getting into controllers, and then when you start getting in higher amps, like this is 30 amps, and on this controller, when you get into 30 amps, the motor connection is different. See, this is a big 9-pin motor wire connection versus this one. This is a small 9-pin connection. And you see the size difference in these. So you got to be very careful. You got to pay attention to which connection your bike uses versus. But see, that's also where it comes in. If you learn how to solder and to splice wires and stuff, these things won't be as important as there is for somebody who don't know how to do these things. If you know how to splice and solder wires, all you do is, give you an example. See, this is where I splice and solder a connection on there, because this controller is a big 9-pin connection, but my bike takes a small 9-pin motor connection. So what I did was I put the cable extension and I spliced it with the big 9-pin motor connection on one end, with the small 9-pin connection on the other end. So I'm able to convert this big 9-pin to a small 9-pin because, like I said, I learned how to splice and stuff like that. And I'll show you in a minute. It's things out there that make that a lot easier if you're not really handy at soldering and stuff like that. Don't worry. I mean, you don't really have to be that good at soldering and doing stuff like that. So, also, one of the major differences for the waterproof controller versus the small pin controller, the one that's not waterproof, even though they put silicone usually on the connections to try that waterproof. The other connections on the small pin controllers, but I'll show you that in a minute. So when it comes to connecting the throttle, the lights, and all that type of stuff on the waterproof connection, it's a lot easier to do because you have cables like this. Usually you'll see you'll have a bike when you have a waterproof speed controller. You'll notice that you only got like one wire running down your bike to the controller, and usually this wire is connected to this. Is usually like a 5-pin or 6-pin connection, and this would be for, let me show you this one here. This would be for your for all your components, like your brake shutoff. Red usually mean brake shutoffs. Green usually mean your LCD display, and yellow usually is your throttle, and sometimes yellow also can be your headlight. And usually on these connections, when you have them like this, these all go up to your handlebars, and the one that's lower like that usually is going to be for your light, your front light, maybe your horn and stuff like that. Yeah, so the red usually is for brake shutoffs. Green, this green right here is going to be for, this is going to be for your LCD display. And on this, usually one of these is your horn and the other one is your throttle. This your throttle and this is your horn and stuff like that. For your lights and stuff. And this is for the front light, to power the front light. And so this is going to be a lot simpler to hook up also than a regular small pin connection controller, because other than this one main connector, only thing left that you have to worry about connecting is these things here. This is going to go to your motor. Then you might have another connection like this to go out to your brake lights. This is going to go to the back of the bike for your brake lights. And then you have red and black, usually with an XT60 connection. That's the most common connection for your battery. So when you see this red and black wire coming out your controller, and usually with an XT60 connection, it's going to be for your power. And this wire right here is going to be for your pedal assist. Functions running through your 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 wire that runs to the handlebars. Okay? So like I said, this is going to be the easiest one to learn how to hook up, because everything is going to be based off of this 5-to-1, or usually like, yeah, see this is 6-to-1 connection here. And the reason why I call it 6-to-1, because you got six wire connection up here up to the handlebars, and it's only one connection running to the motor, to the controller. So this will be called a 6-to-1 cable. And sometimes it's 5-to-1 because you only have 5 wires running to the handlebars, and that would be a 5-to-1 connection cable. Okay, guys. Let's get that. Pretty tight. Let's get that out of the way so we can go over some other stuff. Okay, so this would be your pedal assist connection, and usually even on these, well, sometimes. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. This one pretty much the same as what we just went over. You see, you still got your black and red cable connection. You got your 5-to-1. This is going to be your 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 cable, which would run up to the handlebars, where all your throttle and everything on your handlebars will connect. Then your brake light is a waterproof connection. See, this has all waterproof connections. The other one had mostly waterproof connections, still had some regular small pin connectors on there. But this one has all waterproof connections. So the red would be for your rear lights, and the orange would be for your pedal assist. So this one is even more. It's easier to hook up more so than the other one. Waterproof connection. See these right here, you can easily learn. Now you have two other wires over here that's sticking out your controller. Now these are your learning wires, which means, say you put this on your bike as an upgrade, but then when you plug it up, you notice that when you hit the throttle, your motor is spinning backwards. Don't panic. That's what these wires here are for. These are your learning wires for your controller to learn your motor. You plug these up and hit your throttle again, and usually it will make your motor start turning the other way. And once it starts turning the other way, then you set either I don't know if you unplug it again and it should be turning the wrong way, or you leave it plugged up. One of the two. You'll figure it out. But that's what this for if your motor wire is spinning the wrong way. Once you plug it up, or if your motor is doing anything weird, like if it's like jittering or whatever, you still might have to hook it up if it's like the motor's jittering or something like that. This is for learning. Basically, it programs your controller to your motor. And yeah, pretty much, guys, that's what that is. And this is the one. This is the wire that goes to your motor. See, this is simple to learn. This one's the easiest one to connect. So if you have a bike and you want to upgrade your bike, and you notice that your bike has one wire that runs to the front and breaks off into waterproof connections like this, off of the 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 connection, then you're going to find if you open up the rear or wherever your controller is, you're going to find a waterproof controller like this, or like the other one I just showed you. It's going to be one similar to either this one or the other one. Alright, guys, that's your waterproof connection, 38. This one is a small pin connection controller, and they call it small pin because you got these smaller pins for connection. Now this one is a lot more complicated than what we just saw, because as you can see, it's a lot more wires. But it's not really complicated, because once you get into this, you'll realize on just about every bike you're going to have similar wire colors and similar amounts of wires and stuff like that. Like, see right here, you still have the two wires from the other controller. You should know these two white wires are your learning wires. That's in case your motor is not spinning right or doing something weird. You plug these up and stuff like that, and see if you can correct that by using these learning wires. Alright, so that's the same for both controllers. Alright. Now, the difference is all your handlebar functions, wire functions, have to run all the way back to the controller now. When you have a controller like this, you don't have just one wire running up to the handlebars and breaking off to all your functions on the handlebars. No. With these kind of controllers, all your function wires is going to run all the way back to this controller, wherever you got this controller at. And some bikes have it where the wires run through the frame or whatever, or they might have it where they have some kind of wire covering, or some kind of tubing or something covering these wires. But these wires, like for example, this is the display for a small small pin. See, this is the small pin connection for the display. And you notice, see how long the wire is? That's because this wire has to run all the way back wherever your controller is located. And as you can see, when you look on your display usually is going to have either 5 wires or 6 wires. Some have 7 wires. Like some have these extra connections, and these connections usually are for if you have a key lock or something like that, then you have these extra connections. But you don't necessarily have to use these, because like on this controller, it doesn't have the key lock function. But you can wire that up yourself. Like I said, if you learn this stuff, you can do all that extra stuff. You'll understand the wires. But see, as you can see, these wires match up. And that's what you usually find. You'll find that when you have a throttle or display, they're going to have, usually like this one has 5 wires. This display has 5 wires. So that's an indication that this is where this goes. And as you can see, the colors match up. But sometimes if the colors don't match up, what you find yourself have to do, it won't work properly. What you might have to do is actually repin these connections, which I'll show you a little bit about that in a little while. There's a couple of options you can do about if the colors don't match up on your display or whatever. Don't panic. Like I said, if you learn these things, what would trouble your amateur won't bother you, because you'll be able to figure this out and conquer it, and solve the problem. But as you can see, that matches up. So yeah, so that would be the same for your throttle, your brake shutoffs. Your brake shutoffs gonna be, you're gonna know your brake shutoffs because it's gonna be 2 of the same color wires. And it's going to be 2 connections that's going to be right beside each other, and they usually are black and red. That's going to be your brake shutoffs. I can tell you that right off. That's brake shutoffs. Now, we already know your display is going to be 5 to 6 wires. Okay. Then, your throttle. Now, this is where you can get a little confused, but you can usually figure it out by plugging one into the other, and if it doesn't work, usually, see how this has 3 wires? One of these is your throttle and one is pedal assist. Usually pedal assist is going to be the one with the brown, black, and yellow wires. And the throttle usually is either going to be white, black, and red, or green, black, and red. That's your common throttle colors, wires for your small pin connections. The throttle color is going to be those colors. And sometimes, like I just said, like you might hook up a throttle and it doesn't work. It's usually because they're not pinned the same. Like you might have the black on the right hand side instead of in the middle. And so what you would have to do is you would have to repin either the throttle wire or this wire, where you switch it so the colors match up. The red is the power wire, black is the ground wire, and the white is the signal wire. So that's how I use this. Sometimes you'll have a green signal wire instead of white. So when you see this one, it's usually going to be the throttle, and this is going to be pedal assist. Alright? And then you got your learning wire, and then unlike on the other controller, like I said, it's a lot easier because the motor wire is just one plug. I mean, you got your power, of course, the red and black with the XT60 connection. Unlike waterproof controller, this controller has these wires for your motor. You're going to have your motor phase wires, and it's usually always going to be the same color. Usually it's going to be blue, green, and yellow. And usually this connection right here is your phase wire. I mean your also phase wires, and this is usually how many wires is this? This usually 5 to 6 wires, because sometimes I believe the white wire is not there. Sometimes. But this is what the motor wire for this kind of connection would look like. You would have a hookup for that. As you can see, the colors match up on this. And then usually the difference with this is sometimes these are different type connections. But as you can see, you have the blue, the green, and the yellow. And what you want to do is match the colors up. Match your colors up. Boom. Alright, and then your motor is hooked up. Of course, and then you plug this into your motor. Runs to your motor. And see, usually this will be hidden in your compartment, like under your seat, or sometimes they have these controllers. They'll be like in the crank part down, like in the crank area. They'll have a little space where they put the controller there. Or sometimes it's in a controller bag or box on your bike. But so if you learn these connections and stuff, these wires, and how to troubleshoot these wires, because what happens is when people have trouble with the throttle, okay, if they hitting the throttle on the bike, it's not working. So what if something happened, they did something and they frailed one of these wires? So they thinking like, man, my bike is not working no more. This thing is not, I hit the throttle, it's just completely dead. They're thinking the bike is dead. And it's like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and sell this bike. It cost me $1,200, but I'm going to sell it for $300. All you have to do is fix this wire, and you got a $1,200 bike for $300. So that's why, if you don't have a lot of money, trying to get your e-bike into e-bikes and stuff, learn how to do this. And the best way to do that is they have some books on Amazon that you can buy. There's basically like e-bikes 101, teach you about a lot of this stuff. Or when you're on YouTube and you're watching a lot of these bike guys, you know, a lot of times people like to watch like some of the more popular guys, like what is his name, Sharon Star, and what is that? The guys that get all the bikes and unboxing. Or some of these guys, they send bikes to like people who don't even not really into e-bikes. They just tell you how much they cost and size of the motor and stuff like that. Really should be following somebody who know this stuff, because this is what's going to save you money. This is what's going to keep you on the road when your bike, one of the wires go, or if your motor go out and you pay $1,200 for it. Instead of you have to sell the bike, you can fix it yourself, or you can repair it yourself. Because you're following the guys that know all this stuff. They're teaching you this stuff. This can save you a lot of money, guys. I know a lot of people want to follow the popular guys that, I got a new bike, I got this bike, I got that bike. But they don't know anything about the components. They can tell you what size motor it has and all that stuff. But can they tell you how to repair your controller if one of the wires get frayed. Like what's the easiest way to fix it? Okay, guys, so now we got over the controller. Let's go over some of this stuff to repair these wires and stuff. What's some of the stuff you need to have?